Hi, in this video we are going to use the credit file that we have uploaded to SPSS previously to talk about variables, data view, and variable view in SPSS. We are looking at the data view where we can see our data in tabular form, that is, organized in columns and rows. The columns contain the variables while the rows have the individual observations. For instance, row 1 has all the values registered for individual 1 in each of the variables, income, limit, rating, etc., etc. We can look at the first row to see that the column names are accompanied with symbols, and we are going to see just about now what these symbols mean. But we can also look at something of a problem in that row names and ID are identical. That is, they are conveying the same information. So something we can do as of now is to get rid of this column, which is useless. So we left click and select with the right mouse button, we press cut and the column disappears. Now let's switch into variable view. What do we have here? Here we have the variables on the rows and a lot of names of functions here in the top of the column. Let's talk about each one of them. So in the first column we have the variable names, the same that we have just observed in the previous view. The second column contains information about the type of data that is inside each cell. So the column ID, which has the unique identifier of the individuals, has numeric data, while for instance gender has string data, or that is text. Here we have the width, meaning the maximum width that each type of data can achieve in each cell. So we have a width of 3 digits for this numeric variable, while we have for ethnicity a width of 16 characters. In this column, we have the number of decimals that each numeric variable can have. So income is allowed 3 decimal places, while all these decimal places are 0 for string variables. Label is the full name of our variables. So for instance, while we have income here, for being more practical, we might want to extend this description like monthly income or some month disposable income or something like that. This will be used in charts and tables that you might want to export. Here we have the column related to the values, which are the names of the categories when the categorical variables have both names and labels in the categories. We will not talk about this now, but we will talk about that more in a moment. In this column, we have the indication that our 400 observations have no missing values in any of the variables. This column refers to the number of digits that each column name, so this column name, is allowed to have, so as not to occupy too much space in the data view. here we can see that ethnicity is allowed a 16 name character. Here we have the alignment of the values inside the cells, and we can see that, as usual in Excel, for instance, the numbers are right aligned while the text is left aligned. And finally here we have a very, very important column which refers to the type of measure that we are using for each variable. And here we will have a brief introduction of the type of variables that we can use in data analysis. We have 4 types of variables. Variables that are qualitative nominal, variables that are qualitative ordinal, and then quantitative discrete and quantitative continuous. For instance, gender is a categorical nominal variable with 2 categories, male and female, and can also be called a binary variable. In these kind of variables, there is no possible order that we can infer from the categories. While in a categorical ordinal variable, we can infer an order of the categories. For instance, when we are talking about education status, you can have, for instance, an undergraduate degree, a master's, a PhD, a postdoc, etc. So categories are represented by names, but these names can be ordered. They have a meaningful order behind them. Now we move to discrete variables. Here we have credit cards, the number of credit cards that SPSS mistakenly names as a nominal variable. In fact, this variable is a discrete variable, and we can change it here because it comes from counting. Variables that come from counting only have integer values, and there are intervals between the values. Finally, variables like income and variables related with income like limit and balance, which are numeric and continuous, can assume any values in an interval. So between the values of each variable, there are infinite values. Let's look at each variable more closely. ID, which has numeric data, is in truth a categorical ordinal variable. It only is here to distinguish, identify, and order all the other observations. In fact, we don't know the distance between the values of this observation. We cannot say that participant number 400 is 400 times higher than participant number 1. So these are not meaningful numbers, and absent the distance between them, we cannot perform arithmetic operations like the average. We cannot compute an average for this variable ID. So in truth, this is a ordinal variable. SPSS does not distinguish between continuous and discrete variables. For SPSS, they are always treated like scale variables. So we have to be careful when we are using these variables in analysis. Here is a mistake. We have a variable that is numeric, the years of education, and is being qualified by SPSS as nominal. So we are going to change it into a scale variable. All these are binary variables except for ethnicity, which has 3 categories, and all of these nominal variables have a problem that we are just going to see in data view. What's the problem with gender, student, and married? The problem is that the categories are represented by their names instead of being represented by numeric values. The ideal for variable gender was to give a number to each of the categories, for instance, 1 for male and 0 for female, and then use values to ascribe a number to each category. What would be the benefit of it? Well, SPSS would be able to use that in algorithms that need to compute values. For instance, if we are correspondence analysis or multiple correspondence analysis, SPSS will not be able to use these variables. So the sensible idea will be to replace these variables with numbers instead of letters.